God doesn't guess, he orchestrates. He doesn't operate on hunches, assumptions, or trial and error. God is not reacting to the events of your life. He is ruling over them with intentional precision. Everything God does is with purpose, on purpose, for purpose. When he speaks, it's not speculative, it's sovereign. That's why we can stand firm when he says, it's all planned for the start of May. Because when God says it's planned, it means that every moment leading up to this one has been a part of his divine arrangement. Before you ever cried out to God about the situation you were in, he had already written the resolution. Before you faced the heartbreak, the setback, the silence, or the confusion, God had already built the way through it and the way out of it. What looks like chaos to us is coordination in the hands of God. When it seems like everything is falling apart, God is actually bringing it together piece by piece, moment by moment, to fit into a picture that only he can see in full. You see, the Bible doesn't describe God as a responder. It describes him as the author and finisher of our faith, Hebrews 12:2. He writes the story. He determines the beginning, he declares the ending, and he orchestrates everything in the middle to fulfill his purpose. That's why nothing in your life is random. The doors that closed were part of the plan. The relationships that ended, the jobs you didn't get, the sickness you walked through, the prayers that seemed unanswered, they were all divinely woven into your preparation. And now God is saying, it's time. Not because the stars lined up or the universe shifted, but because his will has reached its appointed place. When he says May is the month, it's not guesswork, it's execution. He's been planning this, he's been preparing this, and if he planned it, you can trust that nothing has caught him off guard. He didn't need to wait for confirmation. He doesn't need a committee to sign off. His word is enough. The prophet Isaiah tells us in chapter 46, verse 10, that God declares the end from the beginning. That means God starts where he wants it to finish and works backward, orchestrating everything so that his intended outcome is what comes to pass. You might think you're lost in the process, but God is simply setting the stage. Just because you don't see the blueprint doesn't mean the building isn't under construction. And May is the month where the curtain is being pulled back. The thing that's been in development behind the scenes is coming into view. What's powerful about God's orchestration is that he even uses what the enemy meant for evil. Joseph told his brothers in Genesis 50:20, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. Did you catch that? God didn't respond to the evil. They meant it one way, but God already had it orchestrated for another. While the brothers were plotting, God was planning. While the pit was being dug, the palace was being prepared. Nothing was wasted. Not the betrayal, not the prison, not the silence. It was all part of the orchestration. And that's what you have to understand about your own life. The pain you've endured was not pointless. The waiting was not wasted. The struggle was not without significance. God has been orchestrating your breakthrough while you were still wiping your tears. The timing of May is not a coincidence. It's the manifestation of everything he's been weaving together in your favor. We often think God is far off, trying to catch up to the things happening in our world, but no, he sits above time. He operates outside of the clock. While we are confined to seconds and minutes and days, God is managing destinies. And he is so intentional that even your missteps get folded into his plan. He knows how to redirect. He knows how to restore. He knows how to bring it all together. Romans 8:28 says that all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Not some things, not just the good things, all things. So when God says it's all planned for the start of May, you can stop pacing and start praising. You can rest your anxious thoughts because the one who designed the plan is also the one who controls the outcome. He has already navigated the detours. He's already defeated the opposition. He has already accounted for the delays, and he has determined that this is your season of release. Now here's the thing. You might not see it all yet. You might still be in the hallway waiting for the door to swing open. But faith believes the plan even when it can't see the picture. Faith trusts the conductor even when the music sounds chaotic. Faith says, if God said it's planned, then I know it's perfect, even if it's not yet visible. So don't let fear shake you. Don't let impatience rob you. Don't let delay discourage you, because this isn't wishful thinking, it's divine orchestration. The timing has been fixed. The resources are already in motion. The favor is already flowing. You're not walking into something that might work. You're stepping into something that's already worked out. God said, it's all planned for the start of May. So you don't need to guess, just go. Don't panic, prepare. Don't wait for permission, walk in purpose, because the plan has already been written. The script has already been authored. And now it's your turn to step into the scene. This is not just another month. It's the moment he planned from the beginning. And when God plans it, you better believe it's coming to pass. You've been waiting, wondering, hoping, and maybe even crying out in frustration. You've asked God, why the delay? Why hasn't it happened yet? But let me remind you of something that's foundational to the character of God. A delay is not a denial. Just because the promise hasn't shown up doesn't mean it's been canceled. Just because it's taking longer than you expected doesn't mean God has changed his mind. What you perceive as a pause might actually be a preparation. When God says something is planned, he means it. And when he tells you that it's planned for the start of May, he's not guessing. He's not giving you a vague hope. He's giving you a divine appointment. But here's the catch. In between the promise and the performance, there's often a delay. And that delay is not designed to hurt you. It's designed to shape you. It's a tool in the hands of a God who is far more interested in developing your character than just delivering your blessing. Too often we treat delays like detours, unwanted, unnecessary, and unfair. But in God's kingdom, delays are divine classrooms. They are the spaces where God matures your faith, deepens your dependence, and strips away the distractions that would sabotage your destiny if he gave it to you too soon. We want microwave miracles, but God works in the slow heat of the oven because he's not trying to make something temporary. He's building something that will last. Let's look at scripture. Abraham was given a promise. Clear and direct, he would be the father of many nations. But from the time God made that promise to the time Isaac was born, 25 years. That wasn't a denial, that was divine delay. God wasn't being cruel. He was making sure that when the promise came, Abraham knew it wasn't his doing, it was God's. He was preparing Abraham to receive in faith and not in flesh. That's why when Abraham tried to rush the process with Hagar and Ishmael, it only created more chaos. Because trying to fulfill God's promise in your own strength during a delay will always lead to complication. God doesn't just want you to have the blessing, he wants you to be ready for the blessing. That's why he lets things take time. That's why he doesn't always answer on your schedule. Because if he gives it to you too early, you might mishandle it. You might start depending on the gift instead of the giver. So he waits, not because he's forgotten you, but because he's forming you. Let's take Joseph. He had a dream straight from heaven that he would be a ruler, that his own family would bow before him. But the next thing we know, he's thrown in a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and locked in a prison. For 13 years, he sat in the space between the promise and the palace. But was God denying him? No. God was developing him. Joseph had to learn how to serve before he could lead. He had to learn humility before he could walk in authority. And when the moment came, when the delay lifted, he was not only ready, he was positioned. What would have happened if God rushed the process? Joseph might have gotten the throne, but lacked the wisdom to handle it. He might have used his power for revenge instead of reconciliation. But because he endured the delay, because he stayed faithful in prison, because he trusted the dream, even when the evidence said otherwise, he was ready. And when Pharaoh called for him, he didn't stutter. He stood tall. He spoke boldly. And he stepped into his purpose. The delay isn't about the dream, it's about the dreamer. It's not that the promise is too big. Sometimes we're not yet big enough in faith, trust, or obedience to carry it. So God delays, not to withhold, but to prepare. And here's the good news. When God finally releases what he promised, the wait always proves worth it. Now, I know delay can feel like silence. You pray, but heaven seems quiet. You believe, but nothing moves. That's when the enemy loves to whisper, it's not going to happen, God changed his mind, you missed your chance. But let me tell you, Satan is a liar. If God said it, he will do it. The delay is not a dead end, it's a setup. And May is the moment God circled on his calendar long before you ever thought to ask. Some of you have been discouraged because the timeline doesn't match your expectations. You thought it would happen last year. You thought by now you'd be further along. But let me encourage you with this truth. God is never late and he's never early. He's always on time. The delay doesn't mean he forgot. It means he's arranging everything to come together in the right way, at the right time, with the right people in the right place. If he moved too soon, you might settle for less. If he opened the door too early, you might walk through unprepared. So he waits, not because he's punishing you, but because he's protecting you. You may not see it now, but one day you'll look back and say, thank God for the delay, because you'll see how he kept you, covered you, and built you during that season of silence. Here's what you need to do in the delay. Stay faithful. Keep praying, keep believing, keep serving. Don't let frustration become disobedience. Don't let weariness cause you to walk away. The promise is still alive, and the delay is just proof that God is up to something greater than you can see. And now, the wait is over. God said, May is the time. That means the delay is lifting. The cloud is moving. The season is shifting. What was once pending is now being released. What was held back is now being poured out. But you needed the delay to be ready for the delivery. So don't curse the delay. Bless it. Because it got you ready. It shaped your character. It deepened your faith. It exposed your idols. It taught you how to trust God when you couldn't trace him. And now you're not just hoping for the promise. you're qualified to carry it. Because a delay is never God withholding something good. It's God ensuring that when he gives it, you'll be ready to receive it and keep it. So lift your head, open your heart, and step into what God has planned. The wait was not wasted. May is here, and what he promised is about to unfold right on time. In our world, everything is measured by time. Clocks tick, calendars flip, schedules fill. We plan our lives in minutes, hours, days, and years. That's how we operate inside the limits of Chronos, the Greek word for sequential time. But God, he doesn't move by Chronos. He moves by Kairos, appointed time. There's a difference between time that passes and time that performs. When God says it's time, it's not because the clock said so, it's because the kingdom said so. You see, the natural time we live in is governed by routine. The sun rises and sets. We go to work, eat meals, check the time, and lay our heads down again. But Kairos moments are not about routine. They are about divine intersections. A Kairos moment is when heaven steps into history and something shifts. Something that couldn't happen yesterday and might not happen tomorrow becomes possible now because God has declared it so. When God says the start of May is the appointed time, he's not making a suggestion, he's revealing a decision. Before the foundations of the world, he designated this season for something specific in your life. He wrote this time into your story long before you were born. You may have thought May would be just another month, but in the mind of God, it's marked for manifestation. Let's go to scripture. In Galatians 4:4, the Bible says, "But when the fullness of the time had come, God sent forth his son." Notice it doesn't say when the clock struck midnight or when Rome passed the right law. It says the fullness of the time. That's Kairos. That's the moment when everything God arranged in history lined up politically, culturally, spiritually, for the birth of Jesus. The world looked chaotic, but God had been orchestrating every detail to fulfill prophecy and release salvation at the exact moment it was needed. God is doing the same in your life. While you've been focused on days and deadlines, he's been aligning people, resources, opportunities, and divine favor to converge at the exact right moment. You've been tracking Chronos, but God has been setting the stage for Kairos. And when he says the start of May is the moment, it's because everything is coming into alignment. You might feel like nothing's moving, like things are stuck. But that's because God doesn't always show you the setup. While you've been waiting, he's been working behind the scenes. Think about a stage play. Before the curtain rises, there's chaos backstage, costumes being put on, props being arranged, actors finding their marks. The audience sees nothing. But the moment the curtain opens, it all makes sense. That's what a Kairos moment feels like. It's the curtain lifting on something that's been in preparation the whole time. Sometimes the greatest evidence that a Kairos moment is near is that everything feels like it's falling apart. That's because God is shaking what can be shaken, so only what is built on him will remain. He's stripping away the unnecessary to reveal the essential. Kairos moments often come wrapped in pressure, discomfort, and transition. But that's not the time to retreat, it's the time to recognize that something divine is unfolding. In Ecclesiastes 3, Solomon tells us that there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. That includes a time to plant and a time to reap. What you sowed in tears is coming up in joy, not because time passed, but because your time has arrived. This isn't just a shift in circumstances, it's a supernatural appointment. The problem is, We often miss Kairos because we're too focused on Chronos. We want God to fit into our deadlines. We want him to answer prayers on our calendar. And when he doesn't, we assume he's not moving. But God doesn't respond to pressure. He responds to purpose. He moves when the weight of your preparation matches the weight of the promise. He moves when the internal development is strong enough to carry the external blessing. And now he's saying that moment has come. The start of May has been ordained, set apart, and anointed as your Kairos, not because it looks different, but because it is different. You may still be standing in the same place physically, but in the spirit, there's a shift. A window is opening. A door is being unlocked. A season is transitioning. And if you can perceive it, if you can see with eyes of faith, then you won't just wait for it, you'll walk into it. Jesus told the people in Luke 19 that they missed their time of visitation. They were so caught up in their expectations of what God should look like that they didn't recognize him when he arrived. And that's the danger. Kairos can come and you can miss it if you're not spiritually awake. That's why discernment is so critical in this season. You've got to be able to hear beyond the noise, see beyond the surface, and recognize when God is saying, now is the time. You may not feel ready, but the good news is you don't have to feel ready, you have to be positioned. When God declares Kairos, he brings with it everything you need. His grace, his power, his provision, they all come attached to the timing. If he says go, he'll provide the ground. If he says speak, he'll give the words. If he says step out, he'll hold you up. He doesn't just call you into the moment, he equips you for it. And here's what happens in Kairos: acceleration. What couldn't move before now moves with ease. What was blocked now flows. Kairos overrides what Chronos has limited. That's why something can take years to build and then suddenly shift in days, because you're no longer operating by natural time. You're in a kingdom moment, and the kingdom doesn't need your clock. It needs your yes. So don't sit back in May like it's business as usual. Wake up with expectation. Pray with authority. Listen with sensitivity, because this is not just another moment. It's your moment. Not because you made it happen, but because God already planned it to happen. He's been waiting for this alignment, and now it's here. There's no need to be afraid. You're not too late. You didn't miss it. If you're breathing, then God still has Kairos moments ahead for you. And this May, it's one of them. It's already set. The pieces are already moving. The heavens have already spoken, and the time is now. So step into it. Speak into it. Believe into it. Because this isn't a random season, it's a releasing season. The start of May is not just a date, it's a divine declaration. And when God moves in Kairos, nothing in earth or hell can stop what he has spoken.